Hello to all Cinemaster lovers.
Wait.
Mom?
Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. The movie starts in Pretty Lee City, and there we get to know Adam and Wei, two university students. But the strange thing is that Wei, despite being 19 years old, is pregnant. And the strange thing is that she doesn't want to say who the father is. The situation starts to take a dark turn when she comes at night and goes to the church where her father and sister work. Suddenly, while her father and her sister were working, a terrifying scream broke the silence of the place. When they went to see what happened, they found their father lying on the ground, blood everywhere. The two girls stood there in disbelief, not understanding how a healthy man like their father could die like that. But that night was just the beginning of the nightmare because the next day, more people started dying in the same way, bleeding massive amounts of blood as if they were bleeding from the inside. The events escalated quickly until the fourth day, when the death toll reached about 50 people, all dying in the same strange way. Here, the government decided not to remain silent and announced a quarantine for the city, as it was clear that a deadly contagious disease was spreading. At that time, Adam went to see his uncle, who worked in the morgue and was also a scientist, to try to find an explanation for this disaster. He spent hours studying the blood samples of the victims, but unfortunately, nothing was clear. This disease was something completely new, and no one knew where it came from. At this point, Adam started to feel that the situation was out of control. He rushed home and told his mother, "We need to escape from here immediately." But before he could finish his sentence, suddenly blood started coming out of her mouth too. Adam was not ready, and his mother died in front of him. At that moment, the government decided not to leave anything to chance. So the army surrounded the city with an electric fence, so no one could try to escape. Now we start to get to know new characters. Let's welcome the duo, the Krieger brothers. Pat is the sensible and responsible man, while Ronnie is a disrespectful drug addict who is always causing problems. The city became like an open zombie party 24 hours a day, people dying from bleeding, the quarantine suffocating everyone, and panic filling the place. But the Krieger brothers said, "Guys, let's have some fun." So they broke into the car showroom of the richest man in the city, Charles, and stole a very expensive car and started drifting. Charles has cameras everywhere and saw them. He and his son chased after the Krieger brothers until they cornered them on a dead-end road, and the situation became very tense. The Kriegers were trapped on the blocked road, and Charles pulled out his shotgun and told them, "Take off your clothes." It was clear Charles wanted to take revenge for his loss, but luckily, help arrived just in time. Here comes Jared, who is considered the only decent person in this city. He pointed his gun at Charles and shouted, "Leave the boys alone." Charles had no choice, so he left angrily. Somewhere else, our genius Adam, who seems to be a prodigy, decided to hack the government website to understand what was happening in the city, and the surprise was shocking. No one under the age of 22 had died from this disease. Adam couldn't believe it, so he ran to the morgue to tell his uncle about this terrifying discovery, but found him dead on the ground. At that time, Adam went to his girlfriend, Wai, and told her, "Look, Wai, we need to get out of here." Wai, whose life was already turned upside down because of her mysterious pregnancy, told him, "Okay, I'll look for my bag and we'll leave quickly." But she felt she was about to give birth. The girl could barely walk and sent a message to Adam saying she wouldn't be able to escape with him. Her sister Melissa, seeing her in pain, tried to call a doctor but no one answered. Melissa quickly thought and said, "Wait, Jared is the only one who can help us." She grabbed her bag and ran to him to save the situation. She finally gave birth to a little boy. Her sister Melissa stood by her, worried and not knowing what to do except hold her hand and pray they would survive the night safely. But elsewhere, Adam had a completely different plan. He decided he wasn't going to wait his turn in line, so he cut a piece of the fence and headed to the city limits to escape. The army spotted Adam as he tried to cut the electric fence. Before he could react, bullets started flying around him. One of the bullets hit him, and Adam fell to the ground. But suddenly the boy stood up again. The secret was he was wearing a bulletproof vest. 4 days passed. Amidst all this chaos, Melissa told herself, "That's it. We need to act instead of waiting for a miracle," and started taking care of the orphaned children in the church, providing them a safe place away from the chaos. Amidst the crowd, the government decided to issue an official statement. The virus has started to subside, and the quarantine will be lifted soon. Before opening the city, all the surviving young people must gather and burn the corpses that filled the streets. People were shocked to have to burn their families and friends, but at the same time, it was the only solution for the city to get out of this nightmare. Everyone barely held themselves together and started gathering the bodies in a certain place to prepare for burning them. Amidst all this, Chuck, the arrogant son of Charles, decided to become the new leader of the city. In the midst of all this devastation, Chuck had a personal crisis. His sister Lena has been missing for a few days now. While searching with the guys, they run into Ronnie Cricker, the troublemaker. He's trying to steal medicine from someone's house. He decided to deal with him gently and told him, "Ronnie, return that thing." But Ronnie pulled out a gun and cocked it. "You all leave now." So he decided to let him go, but he knew the time would come to get his revenge. At night, one of his friends brought a photo and showed it to Chuck. And that's when Chuck completely lost control, because the photo was of a woman's severed finger. Not just any woman, but the owner of the house Ronnie robbed. The boy wasn't just stealing medicine, he stole the woman's ring after cutting off her finger. Why entered someone's house quickly? It was obvious it was the house of a man whose wife had just given birth and started searching for something. Suddenly, a little boy came out behind her, holding a knife. "Who are you? What do you want?" Wai stood still, nervous, trying to calm the situation. "I'm not going to do anything. I'll leave right away." But the boy, strangely calm, told her, "No, wait." He opened a secret safe and took out a strange envelope with her name on it. In the middle of all this chaos, Wai suddenly felt dizzy. She lost balance and collapsed to the ground, and she fell into a coma. At the same time, Jord, the only good man left in town, was working on his farm as usual when he noticed something strange. Why are there so many vultures here? He looked up and saw vultures circling a spot in the forest. Clearly, something had died there, and the whole area was under their control. He decided to check it out himself, but what he saw was a real disaster. Chuck's sister was dead, her body lying under a tree, holding a gun in her hand, part of her skull blown off. He immediately called Chuck, Adam, and Omega. He looked around the body and noticed signs of a struggle and a man's footprint next to her. Chuck was in shock, staring at his sister's lifeless body. He said, "Let's go." But there was no time for tears. He decided to take the body home and burn it in the backyard to get rid of it. But the disaster wasn't over yet. Somewhere else, far from all this, his other sister Amanda, who has autism, was sitting in the family grocery store. The girl was convinced Milana was coming home and decided to prepare food so everything would be ready when she arrived. But unfortunately, her lack of cooking experience turned the situation into a disaster. The oil got too hot, the pan caught fire, and suddenly the whole shop was ablaze. Amanda managed to get out safely, but she was terrified and couldn't speak. The girl couldn't face the truth, afraid to admit she was the cause of what happened after the fire that burned the store. She stood there, terrified, knowing it was her fault but unable to tell the truth. So when Chuck's sisters asked her how the fire started, she just blurted out anything and said she saw an old car enter the place. Of course, Chuck's mind immediately connected the dots. Surely the Cricker brothers were behind this disaster. Everything in this town, they must have a hand in it. At night, the atmosphere was gloomy and the whole town gathered around the pile of burned bodies, ready to set them on fire to clean the place of the dead filling it. At the same time, Adam had a completely different mission. The boy hacked the government website, looking for anyone who might have information about the mysterious disease. After a long search, he finally found this person. "This is the one. He must have something useful for me." But as he was about to leave after getting what he wanted, he heard someone coughing nearby. He looked around and was shocked. "Why, what are you doing here?" The girl was lying among the corpses, almost dead. Adam didn't hesitate. He ran to her and carried her away quickly before people set the bodies on fire. At that time, far from the city, a tiger escaped from the zoo after attacking some children who were eating. The next morning, Chuck discovered something very strange. He found his sister Lana's phone, and the shock was that it was still working and had things on it that could reveal a lot. "I have to go to Jord and handle this." As soon as he got there, he told him, "We won't let Cricker brothers get away this time." But Jord was hesitant and told him, "It's not that easy. They're dangerous." But Chuck had had enough. Jord was still hesitant, but as soon as he found out that the last person to text Lana before she died was Ronnie, he decided to join Chuck before he left his little sister Francine to feed the cows. Chuck, Jord, and the guys surrounded the Cricker brothers' house and started shouting, "Ronnie, come out now!" Pat, the older brother, quickly told Ronnie to hide in the basement, and he would handle the situation. Pat went outside and tried to talk calmly, but suddenly, the whole town was plunged into darkness. The electricity went out. Chuck felt this was a trick from the Cricker brothers to ambush them. "This is a dirty game. Shoot!" Bullets started flying everywhere. Ronnie, who was hiding in the basement, heard the shooting and decided to join in, firing from below. Everyone went crazy. In the end, Chuck and his crew decided to retreat because the situation had become too dangerous for them. But as they were leaving, Jord was shot. After a while, Chuck stopped his car at a pharmacy. He dropped Jord off there and told him, "Rest here and take care of yourself." Despite being very weak, Jord tried to reassure him and said he was fine. But as soon as Chuck left, Jord entered the pharmacy and collapsed from severe bleeding. But luckily, Melissa arrived at the last moment. He started his operation. The man was between life and death, but he still had a chance to live if the bleeding stopped. At the same time, in the Craker's brother's house, Tracy told him that Ronnie had escaped, and even more dangerously, when she searched his phone, she found messages between him and Lana, and messages with another girl. Ronnie was sneaking into Chuck's house, went to Stacy, Chuck's girlfriend, while she was sleeping in her room. It was clear that there was something between him and her, because as soon as she saw him, he started talking as if he was seeking refuge. He told her that she was the only one who could help him and kept swearing to her about Lana's curse. He asked her to help him. He was confident she wouldn't leave him, and that he had a chance to get out of this night safely. And indeed, Stacy decided to help him. The next morning, she took Ronnie and told him she would let him meet Chuck and solve the issue peacefully. Ronnie believed her and thought this was his only chance to get out of the crisis. As soon as they arrived at Stacy's, she screamed and said that Ronnie was attacking her. In seconds, Chuck's guys turned on him and chased after him to finish him off. He was an open target, with no plan and nowhere to hide, and his fate was in real danger. On the other side, away from all the chaos that happened, Frances, Yord's sister, was trying to start the generator on the farm. But the escaped tiger reached the farm. The predator was hungry, and it was Frances's turn. As soon as she saw it, her heart dropped to her feet. She thought quickly and hid on the roof. Frances was terrified, but she decided she wouldn't stay hidden forever. She grabbed the gun and started to come out of her hiding place slowly. But the tiger spotted her and started to approach with slow steps, its eyes fixed on her. Yord had only one option to save his sister at any cost. Ronnie was holding her hostage and demanded that he give him a weapon in exchange for her life. Chuck had no choice but to comply, so he handed him a rifle and quickly pulled his sister away. But before Ronnie could move, Chuck unleashed all his anger and started beating him, punch after punch, until Ronnie fell to the ground. Before things got even more out of control, Jordy and Beto arrived at the right moment and separated them. But the real surprise was that Ronnie was with Stacy, Chuck's girlfriend, and it turned out Lana was killed. Ronnie is not the killer, and the real criminal is still free. But as Ronnie was walking away from the place, he looked at Chuck and said coldly, "The war hasn't even started yet." At that time, Yord returned to his farm, but as soon as he entered, he was shocked by a horrible sight. The escaped tiger was dead in front of the house. He quickly went in to look for Frances, his fear growing every second, until he finally found her safe. But she was terrified by what had happened. He looked at her and said proudly, "If my mom and dad were here, they would be proud of you." On the other side, Y returned home, but Melissa greeted her with an angry scream. "How could you leave your son and walk away without telling me?" She exploded in her sister's face and said sharply, "Enough, you don't have to care about him anymore. From today, he's not your responsibility." And before anyone could answer, she left the house and wandered the streets, lost in her thoughts. At that moment, as she was walking through the city, which looked like a ghost town, she met Ronnie. He looked at her and said in a strange tone, "If you want to escape from here, I can help you." Ronnie told Y that if she needed a place to go, his house was open to her. The surprise was that she agreed to go with him, as if she had lost hope in anything else. The next morning, they decided to go into the forest to hunt, and she left her son in Tracy's care as if she didn't care about him at all. On the other side of the city, two delinquent kids, Harrison and his friend, decided to go on a crazy adventure. They broke into Chuck's garage and stole a fancy car, a shiny black one. But they didn't get far because Chuck's men saw the theft and chased after them at full speed. The chase was intense, and Harrison lost control of the car. It went off the road and fell into a big ditch. The car was wrecked, and the kids ran out of it. But before they could escape, Chuck's men caught them and dragged them like spoils to Chuck himself. Chuck stood in front of them and looked at Harrison and said, "Are you going to apologize for what you did?" But instead of apologizing, Harrison stood up to him with all courage and said, "You think you're the president of this city." These words made Chuck's anger was clear on his face, so he decided to punish him in his own way. He tied him to a metal pole and left him there in the freezing cold. At the same time, Adam was still trying to solve Lana's murder in the same place where he found her body. He started looking around until he saw something interesting, a sports cap similar to the one Pat Craker used to wear back in his baseball games. Adam felt this wasn't a coincidence, and that Pat might be connected to Lana's murder. So he decided to take the matter seriously and investigate the case himself. Without anyone noticing, he sneaked into the Ocuni Craker house and started searching. Adam was trying to collect any evidence to support his theory. When he entered the Craker's brother's house, he noticed a shoe placed outside the door. He got closer and looked carefully. The surprise was that when Adam compared the shoe print to the footprints he found at Lana's body, they matched exactly. It was a clear sign that Pat was at the scene when Lana died. Adam decided to search more, but Tracy saw him and asked him harshly, "What are you doing here?" Adam quickly tried to get himself out of trouble and told her he was looking for Ronnie to get some drugs from him. Tracy was suspicious of him, but in the end, she let him go without trouble. Later, Pat decided to meet Adam and confessed to him that he wasn't the one who killed Lana. He was there trying to stop her from doing something terrible, and that was the reason of the argument around the place. After telling the truth, he gave him a paper and asked him to take care of it. But Chuck and his men appeared and started shooting at him. No matter how much Chuck tried, he couldn't catch up with him. Adam intervened and says he was innocent because Lana killed herself, and gave him the letter that Pat had left for him, which was the last message she wrote before her death. Chuck stood there, unable to believe what he was reading. His eyes were full of sadness. But the situation kept getting worse because someone came running toward him and told him that the boy he had tied to the pillar, Harrison, had lost consciousness. It turned out he was diabetic and had fallen into a coma because of low insulin. Fortunately, the people around him managed to save him just in time. At home, Pat was talking to Tracy and telling her about all the troubles their brother Ronnie had caused recently. It was clear he had had enough. After a while, she decided to go to Pat and ask him to take her to the city, but she was shocked by his cold response. "I can't. Chuck's men are after me." In the final scene, Adam was talking to one of his teachers. Finally, the electricity returned to the city and everyone was happy. If you liked it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in another movie. Goodbye.